rich don't work for money. Don't you touch that stuff. The people that are being screwed today are the poor and middle class because they work for money. If you're poor, you'll always be poor.
That's really hard for people to understand.
Yeah, the money will disappear that fast. Just like most pro athletes, they make millions of dollars, and 65% are bankrupt 5 years later. It's because they come from poor families. Now you tell them that, they get very angry at you. It's the rich fault. You guys ripped me off. Government ripped me off. But unfortunately, what Mr. Lipton was saying, it's passed down genetically. You have to make mistakes to learn, but our schools punish you for making mistakes. And then they also punish you for asking for help because that's called cheating. I call it cooperation.
Yeah.
So that everything is opposite from school. Entrepreneurs are not going to make good employees. Do you think Bezos became a billionaire paying taxes?
I wouldn't bet on that.
He doesn't pay taxes. Trump doesn't pay taxes. I don't pay taxes. So the question is, how do guys like us do it is the question you should be asking.
Because the rich people make the rules.
We study different things. I wouldn't go to school. You want to be an employee, choose to be an employee. You want to be an entrepreneur, you choose to be an entrepreneur, but you've got to study. They're two different people. What you have to study is different, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, but it's a different study. The trouble is our school system trains us to be employees. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, pay your taxes, get out of debt, and invest in the stock market. That makes you poor. So how do I get rich? I borrow money, and I buy assets with it. The poor person borrows money and buys liabilities like purses, cars, houses, and they get poorer and poorer and poorer. Why would you save money when they're printing money? Because that's what you've been told to do.
Of course.
So question that. I questioned all that. Why would I save money when they print money? That's what happened in 1971 when President Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. They can print as much as they like. Then they tell you, so go to school, you get a job, you become an employee, you pay taxes because you're working for money. Then they tell you to save money. Do you know why they tell you to save money? It's the banks run the world. The rich run the world. They don't care if you're communist or capitalist. The big mistake I see young people make is they focus here. And the words are, I want to do what I love. That's the truth. You see, in real life, sometimes you have to do what you hate. Like people think I like to write books. I hate writing books. But it fills my purpose in life. It's not my passion, my purpose in life. Because my purpose was to get here. A lot of these guys get trapped here doing what they love. So when I was before my 20s, I knew I wanted to go there, and I wasn't doing what I love. I had to learn what I didn't want to learn. I had sometimes to do what I hated. I had to learn about taxes. I had to learn about debt. I had to take classes. I had to learn about insurance. So I was doing a lot of things I hated doing so I could come over here. These guys never do this because they live their passion. I want my passion. The reason I make more money is because it's not what I'm doing what I love. I do sometimes what I hate so I can have the assets that I love. The question I ask all over the world, what does school teach you about money? And the answer is nothing. And that's not a mistake. That's not an accident. But the way to keep the poor and middle class working hard is never teach them what the rich know. It's what the rich teach their kids about money, the poor and middle class do not. But our school system will never tell us that because they're part of the process. Fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. And today in the world, America especially, is this gap between the rich and everybody else. And I know the game of the rich. My rich dad taught me, you know it because you're the banker. Rich dad's lesson number one, the rich don't work for money. Don't you touch that stuff. The game the bankers and the rich play is different than what they teach you in school. And that's the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My poor dad, PhD, stands for poor, helpless, and desperate. They don't know anything about money. And they're teaching our kids. And my rich dad was an entrepreneur who never finished school. So all of the pieces of the puzzle, when Fuller scolded me back in '83, the pieces of the puzzle and my life started to come together. It's not get a job, work hard, save money, and invest in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. The financial industry is two things: debt and taxes. Debt and taxes. And we still tell kids to go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and get out of debt. Now, who tells them to do that? That's the most ridiculous thing there is. They're afraid they might make a mistake. They're good little students in school. Go to school, get a job, don't make mistakes. Well, it's not risky. I mean, to me, what's risky is having a job and paying taxes and saving money because they're printing it. That's the worst thing of all. The people that are being screwed today are the poor middle class because they work for money. You know, the banker friends, they're not working for money.
They have money working for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Very big difference in mentality here. Well, I said, I want you to teach me about money. So I said, why should I teach you? You go to school, my poor dad's not going to teach you. He says, I said, oh, finally he acquiesced. He said, okay. He says, but if I teach you, you work for me for free. And I said, why for free? And my poor dad went nuts. He says, because if I pay you, you think like an employee. Your brain will change. If you learn never to work for money, you'll be a rich man. So my dad, the poor dad, Stanford, Northwestern, University of Chicago, the head of education for the state of Hawaii, candidate for lieutenant governor of Hawaii as a Republican of all things. They know nothing about money, and they teach our kids. They're good people. 80% are good people. 20% just are there for the pension and the paycheck, you know that. My poor dad said, go talk to your best friend's father, Mike's father. I said, why is that? He said, because Mike's father's an entrepreneur. And 9 years old, so what's an entrepreneur? And he said, well, I'm an employee. They're two different people, mindset-wise. Well, it came from a lesson before Rich Dad. I was in Sunday school. My Sunday school teacher's a young, pretty woman, and she said, I'm like 9. And she goes, why were the 3 wise men wise? I go, because they were rich. They gave the swaddling Jesus gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So they had to be rich guys, I said. And she goes, no, that's not it. Well, they had gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Well, that's not it. So why were they wise? She said, what made them wise was they always sought the best teacher. And she says, if you're going to be successful in your life, you've got to find the best teachers. And so with that, when my poor dad said, go seek out your rich dad, I was just following her advice. So I've had a habit ever since then, or a policy, if I find out there's a great teacher, and a great teacher is somebody who comes from the inside, not the outside. When I was in flight school, I swear to God, my instructors could fly because I flew with them. But in school, you don't know if your instructor is for real or not. That's where the fake teacher comes from. When I was in my MBA program, I was still in the Marine Corps. I came back from the war. I'm in the MBA program, and my MBA accounting teacher doesn't know accounting. I'm going nuts. I'm not an accountant, but I knew he wasn't an accountant also, so I took him on. I said, are you an accountant? He goes, I have a master's in accountancy. I said, that's not the question. Are you an accountant? I have a master's in accountancy. And I stood up and are you an accountant? Same answer. I said, you're a fake. You don't know what you're talking about. And to this day, when I listen to what people are teaching kids about accountancy, it's bad accountancy.